Marcus was a kind and hardworking man. He lived in a neighborhood where many people faced challenges every day. The streets were busy, and the sounds of cars, children playing, and neighbors talking filled the air. Marcus knew his community well. He had grown up there and loved the people around him. But there was one thing that always made life difficult. His community did not always get fair treatment, especially from the police. Marcus was a black man, and he had seen many times how some officers treated black people unfairly. He had heard stories from friends and neighbors about being stopped for no good reason. Sometimes the police would be very rude or even mean. Marcus wanted to live his life peacefully. He worked hard at his job in a local store. Every morning he woke up early to open the shop, serving his customers with a smile. He was respected by many because he was honest and always ready to help, even though Marcus tried to avoid trouble. He could not forget the bad experiences that others went through. He often thought about how unfair things were. He knew that not all police officers were bad, but some in his town had a strong bias against people who looked like him. The city had tried to fix these problems, but change was slow. Sometimes, Marcus would wonder what it would be like if things were different. He and his neighbors could trust the police to protect them instead of fear them. One sunny afternoon, Marcus decided to run some errands. He needed to buy groceries and then pick up some things for his shop. As he walked down the street, he greeted people with a nod or a quick hello. The neighborhood was busy, but the day felt calm. Marcus was happy to see children playing and neighbors chatting. Yet he knew that the calm could change quickly, especially when police were around. On this day, Marcus did not expect to have any problems, had his shopping list ready, and was thinking about what he still needed to buy. But just a few steps away from the corner store, he saw a police car parked. Inside was Officer Daniels. Marcus had heard of Daniels before. Many people in the neighborhood did not like him. He was known for being strict and sometimes unfair, especially to black people. Marcus tried not to think too much about it as he passed by. Suddenly, Marcus felt a hand on his shoulder. He turned around and saw Officer Daniels standing close. To him, the officer's face was serious and his eyes looked cold. "Where are you going?" Daniels asked in a sharp tone. Marcus was surprised. He had done nothing wrong. "I'm just running errands," Marcus replied calmly. "I'm buying groceries for my shop." But Officer Daniels was not satisfied with the answer. He stepped closer and said, "You look suspicious." "I need to check your ID." Marcus shook his head gently. "I haven't done anything wrong." "Why do you want to see my ID?" he asked politely. Daniels did not answer clearly. Instead, his voice grew louder and more demanding. People nearby started to stop and watch. They could feel the tension in the air. Marcus tried to stay calm. He knew that arguing with the officer might make things worse. "Please, I'm just trying to live my life," he said softly. But Daniels did not listen. He accused Marcus of something strange, something Marcus knew was not true. The officer said Marcus looked like he was involved in a crime. Marcus was shocked and hurt by the accusation. He wanted to explain, but Daniels interrupted him with a harsh tone. More police officers arrived at the scene. They stood quietly, watching what was happening. Marcus could see that they were not there to help him, but to support Daniels. The feeling of fear and anger grew inside Marcus. He did not want to fight. He just wanted to be treated fairly. But Daniels grabbed his arm roughly, pulling him closer. Marcus tried to pull away, telling him to stop. The crowd was getting bigger now. Neighbors looked worried. Some whispered to each other, saying they had seen this kind of thing before. Marcus felt his heart beating fast. He wanted to protect himself, but also did not want to cause more trouble. Then, suddenly, Daniels pushed him hard. Marcus lost his balance for a moment, but stayed standing. He knew he had to do something too. Stop the attack. Without thinking too much, Marcus threw one strong punch. It landed right on Daniels' nose. The officer gasped and stepped back, holding his face. Blood started to come from his nose. The street grew very quiet. Everyone looked shocked. Marcus stood still, his hands up but his eyes strong. He said clearly, "File that under self-defense, Chief." People around started to talk loudly now. They supported Marcus and told the truth about how Daniels had treated him. Many said they had seen Daniels being unfair before. The other officers did not stop Marcus or Daniels. They just waited to see what would happen next. Marcus knew this moment would change his life. He'd stood up for himself in a way many had been afraid to do, but he also knew the fight was not over. Police department would have to decide what to do. His community would watch closely. Marcus felt a mix of hope and fear, knowing that this one punch was more than just a hit. It was a stand for justice. Marcus stood there, his heart still pounding from what had just happened. The moment felt like it was frozen in time. Officer Daniels held his nose, surprised and in pain from the punch. Marcus kept his hands raised, not wanting to make things worse, but he stood tall and calm. The people around were watching closely, some nodding in support, others whispering quietly. The tension was heavy in the air, but Marcus tried to breathe slowly and keep his mind clear. Daniel's nose was bleeding, and he looked angry and shocked. He had never expected Marcus to fight back. The officer standing nearby looked unsure. No one spoke at first. Marcus's words echoed clearly. "File that under self-defense, Chief." Everyone heard it. It was like a small but powerful statement, a message that Marcus was not afraid to protect himself. Some neighbors stepped forward, ready to help Marcus if things got worse. They had seen many bad moments with the police before and knew how quickly things could get out of control. But today, they felt something different. Marcus was standing for justice, for respect, and the community felt proud. A few people started recording the event on their phones, wanting to keep proof of what happened. Officer Daniels wiped his nose with his sleeve and took a deep breath. He looked at Marcus with hard eyes, but said nothing at first. Then he called his radio, asking for backup. Marcus knew this was just the beginning of a long process. He defended himself, but now the police department would decide what to do next. The crowd slowly grew larger as news spread. People came out of their homes, curious and concerned. Many had heard stories about Officer Daniels and his harsh ways. They wanted to see for themselves what was happening. Some neighbors shook their heads, remembering the many times they had felt unfairly treated. Marcus stayed quiet for a moment, thinking about how unfair the situation was. He had done nothing wrong, yet here he was, standing in front of angry officers. His mind went back to all the times he had tried to avoid trouble, to live peacefully. But now he realized sometimes standing up for yourself was necessary, even if it was scary. A woman in the crowd, Mrs. Johnson, spoke up. She was known in the neighborhood for helping with community problems. "This is not right," she said loudly. Marcus was only defending himself. "We all know how Daniels acts. Can't just push people around." Others in the crowd nodded and shouted in agreement. Their voices grew louder, showing support for Marcus. The other officers began talking quietly among themselves. Some looked uncomfortable, knowing Daniels had crossed a line. One younger officer stepped forward and spoke calmly to his partner. "We need to be careful here. The cameras are rolling, and this could get serious." Marcus could hear the concern in their voices. This was no ordinary day. Marcus's friends started arriving. They had heard about the incident and wanted to make sure Marcus was safe. Among them was Jamal, Marcus's closest friend since childhood. Jamal put a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "You did what you had to do, brother. We've all been through things like this. Today, you showed real courage." Marcus smiled weakly, feeling grateful for his friend's support. The police chief, a man named Captain Rogers, soon arrived at the scene. He was known to be fair but firm. Captain Rogers looked serious as he approached Marcus and Officer Daniels. He asked for a clear report from Daniels first. Daniels explained his version, leaving out how he had been aggressive first. Then the chief turned to Marcus and asked calmly, "What happened from your side?" Marcus told the story simply and honestly. He said how Daniels stopped him without reason, how he tried to stay calm, but Daniels pushed him roughly. Marcus explained that he only punched to defend himself. The chief listened carefully, asking questions but not interrupting. Marcus noticed that Captain Rogers was paying close attention. After hearing both sides, the chief decided to call everyone. To stay calm and wait for a full investigation, he promised that the police department would review the case fairly. Some people in the crowd cheered quietly, hoping this meant justice would be served. Others were still skeptical, knowing how these situations sometimes ended unfairly. Back in the community, news of the event spread fast. Some people called it a brave act. Others warned Marcus to be careful, telling him that standing up to police officers could be dangerous. Marcus felt the weight of both pride and worry. He wanted to believe that things could change, but he also knew the challenges were real. That evening, Marcus sat at home with his family. They talked about what had happened, how it might affect their lives. His mother held his hand tightly and said, "You did what you had to do, Marcus. You stood up for yourself with respect. We're proud of you." His father nodded, adding, "We have to be strong. This is just the beginning, but you are not alone." Marcus thought about his future. Would he be treated fairly in court if it came to that? Would the police change their ways? Could his community come together to support each other more? These questions filled his mind, but he felt ready to face whatever came next. He had shown that courage and truth mattered. The next few days brought many visitors to Marcus's home. Reporters from local news stations wanted to hear his story. Some asked tough questions, but Marcus answered with honesty and calmness. He wanted people to know the truth, not just about what happened to him, but about the larger problem of unfair treatment in his neighborhood. Community leaders began to organize meetings. They invited police officers, city officials, and residents to talk openly about the issues. Marcus agreed to join these talks, hoping his experience could help bring change. He knew that one punch had started something bigger, a chance for the community to heal and grow stronger together. At the police station, the investigation continued. Officers watched the videos, listened to witnesses, and gathered facts. Some within the department felt uneasy about Daniel's actions. They knew that fairness and respect were important. Today's event showed where the department had fallen short. Marcus did not seek attention or fame. He wanted justice and peace for his community. He wanted to live without fear and to be treated with dignity. The support he received gave him strength. People who had once been silent began to speak out, sharing their own stories of unfair treatment. Slowly, a movement grew. It was not loud or violent, but steady and strong. Marcus became a symbol of standing up with dignity and courage. His one punch was more than just a moment of defense. It was a call for respect and fairness. People hoped this would be a turning point, not only for Marcus, but for the whole community. Marcus could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. After the incident, the attention on him was both overwhelming and unexpected. People he had never met before reached out to offer support and encouragement. And even strangers sent messages of hope. His phone rang often with calls from reporters and community leaders who wanted to hear his side of the story. Marcus remained calm and clear, wanting to share the truth without causing more trouble. At the same time, the police department was busy with the investigation. They reviewed the video footage taken by witnesses, listened to testimonies, and checked all the details carefully. The footage clearly showed Officer Daniels acting aggressively toward Marcus before Marcus threw the punch. It also showed how Marcus had tried to stay calm and only acted to defend himself. This evidence made it harder for the police department to ignore what had really happened. Inside the community, the mood was changing. People who had often felt powerless began to feel a new sense of hope. Marcus's courage became a spark, had shown that it was possible to stand up for oneself with dignity. At neighborhood meetings, people shared their own stories of unfair treatment and started asking questions. They wanted change and they wanted to be heard. Marcus became a symbol not because he sought attention, but because his actions spoke to a bigger truth. He was an everyday man who had been pushed to a moment where he had to defend himself. Many people related to that. His story spread through local newspapers, radio shows, and social media. People talked about it not only in his town, but also in other places where similar problems existed. However, not everyone was supportive. Some in the police department and city government were worried about the attention. They feared the story might cause trouble or damage the department's image. There were quiet meetings behind closed doors, discussing how to handle the situation. Some officers still defended Daniels, believing he had done his job. But more and more voices called for fairness and respect. Marcus stayed focused on what mattered most: justice and peace. He did not want anger or violence. Instead, he wanted the police to be fair and for the community to feel safe. He joined groups working on police reform, attending meetings where residents and officials talked openly. It was not easy. Some conversations were tense, and not everyone agreed. But Marcus believed that honest dialogue was the first step toward change. His family stood by him throughout. His mother reminded him daily to stay strong and kind. His father helped him understand the importance of patience and courage. His younger sister, who was studying law, offered advice on how to speak clearly and calmly to the media. The support from his family gave Marcus the strength to face the challenges ahead. One day, Marcus was invited to speak at a community gathering. The room was full of people who wanted to listen. Marcus told his story honestly, sharing not only the events of the day but also his feelings. He spoke about fear, frustration, hope, and the desire for fairness. His words moved many in the audience. Some wiped tears from their eyes. Others nodded, feeling understood. The police chief, Captain Rogers, also attended some of these meetings. He listened carefully to Marcus and others, began to see how important it was to address the problems openly. The chief promised to work on new training programs for officers, focusing on respect and fairness for all citizens. It was a small step, but it gave the community a reason to hope. Meanwhile, Officer Daniels faced the consequences of his actions. The investigation found that he had not followed proper procedures and had shown bias in his behavior. Daniels was disciplined and required to attend training sessions. The news spread, and many people felt justice was being served.
Oh.
Marcus did not celebrate this. He only wanted things to get better for everyone. The community began organizing peaceful events to promote understanding and change. There were workshops on communication, meetings between police and residents, and efforts to build trust. Marcus took part whenever he could, hoping his experience would help prevent others from going through similar pain. At the same time, Marcus returned to his daily life. He went back to his job at the store, greeted customers with his usual smile, and spent time with his family. Life was not easy, but it was filled with meaning. He felt proud of standing up for himself and hopeful for the future. The story of Marcus and the broken nose became more than just a local event. It became a lesson about courage, fairness, and the power of a community to come together. Marcus's single punch was a moment of self-defense, but its impact reached far beyond that. It reminded people that everyone deserves respect and that speaking out can lead to change. Marcus often thought back to that day. He did not want to be remembered only for that one moment of conflict. He wanted to be remembered for his courage, to face injustice with dignity, and for his hope that things could get better. He believed that with kindness and strength, communities could heal and grow stronger. Through his journey, Marcus learned that change is not always fast or easy. It takes patience, support, and courage. But every small step matters, he continued. To work with neighbors and officials, speaking up whenever he could. His life became a story of hope, reminding others that standing up for what is right is never wrong. After the incident, Marcus found himself at the center of a growing conversation in his community. His act of self-defense had sparked something important, a chance for people to come together and demand change. Neighborhood meetings became more frequent, drawing larger crowds each time. People shared their stories, their fears, and their hopes. Marcus listened carefully and spoke honestly. He didn't want to be just a symbol. He wanted to help make things better for everyone at one of these meetings. Marcus met several community leaders who had been working quietly for years to improve relationships between the police and residents. They welcomed Marcus warmly and invited him to join their efforts. Together, they planned workshops about respectful communication and fairness. Marcus felt hopeful. For the first time in a long while, he saw real steps toward healing the wounds. In his neighborhood, meanwhile, the police department was under pressure to act. The video recordings and witness statements made it clear that Officer Daniels had been wrong to treat Marcus roughly. The chief of police, Captain Rogers, spoke publicly about the need for change. He announced that Daniels would face disciplinary action and would have to take part in new training focused on bias and de-escalation. This news spread quickly through the community and was met with cautious optimism. Marcus continued to face the media. He gave interviews where he spoke not only about his experience, but also about the need for understanding and respect. He became a voice for those who had felt unheard. His calm and honest words helped many people see the importance of standing up for justice peacefully. At home, Marcus's family remained his greatest support. His mother reminded him to take care of himself, to rest and find moments of peace. His father encouraged him to keep faith in the future even when things seemed difficult. His sister helped him prepare for public speaking and answered his questions about legal rights. With their help, Marcus felt stronger each day. The community also started peaceful protests to show their demand for fairness. These gatherings were well organized and respectful. Marcus took part in several, speaking briefly but powerfully about his hope for change. The protests gained attention and helped remind local officials that the people were watching and expecting results. Some officers in the police department joined community meetings, eager to listen and learn. These new dialogues opened doors for better understanding. Captain Rogers pushed for changes in training and policy, aiming to build trust between officers and residents. It was not a quick fix, but small steps were being made. Officer Daniels, meanwhile, faced the consequences of his actions. His punishment was firm but fair. He was removed from patrol duties and enrolled in training programs designed to address bias and improve behavior. Many in the community felt relief that the department was taking responsibility, but they also wanted to see lasting change beyond just one officer's punishment. Marcus returned to his daily routine, but with a new sense of purpose. His shop remained a gathering place where neighbors came to talk and support each other. He continued to participate in meetings and discussions, encouraging dialogue and patience. Marcus understood that real change required time and effort from everyone. His story inspired others in neighboring communities facing similar struggles. People reached out to share their experiences and to ask how they could start conversations in their own towns. Marcus responded with kindness and hope, always reminding them that standing up for fairness was never wrong. Through it all, Marcus stayed humble. He did not want to be seen as a hero, but as a man who did what was right in a difficult moment. His message was simple: everyone deserves respect, and no one should have to live in fear. Marcus believed that with courage, kindness, and honest talk, communities could heal. The event also led to important conversations about how police officers are trained and how they interact with citizens. The city began reviewing policies and working with experts to create better programs. These efforts aimed to prevent future incidents and build stronger relationships. Marcus's journey was far from over, but the path was clearer now. He continued to work with neighbors, officials, and police to keep the conversation going. His experience was a reminder that one person's courage can start a movement. The punch that broke a nose also broke a silence, opening the way for hope and change. Marcus felt a new sense of calm as time passed after the incident. Life in the neighborhood slowly began to change, and he noticed that more people were talking openly about fairness and respect. The police department, influenced by the community's voices, started working on ways to improve how officers treated everyone. Captain Rogers, the police chief, made real efforts to listen and bring about better training and understanding. Marcus continued to live his daily life, going to work, taking care of his family, and spending time with friends. But now he carried a quiet pride. He had stood up for himself in a difficult moment, and his courage helped bring attention to important issues. Marcus was not interested in fame or praise. What mattered most to him was the hope that things could get better for everyone in his community. The changes were small at first. Officers began attending workshops where they learned about treating people with respect, regardless of their background. Meetings between police and community members became regular, creating chances for honest conversation. Slowly, trust started to grow, even if it was just a little at a time. Marcus took part in these meetings, sharing his story and encouraging others to speak up. Many people in the neighborhood felt safer. He saw that speaking out could lead to change. Marcus became a quiet leader, respected not just for the punch he threw, but for the way he used his voice afterward. His message was always clear: fairness, respect, and understanding could build a stronger community. Officer Daniels, who had been disciplined, was moved to a different role. He attended more training and was watched carefully. The police department made it clear that unfair treatment and bias would not be tolerated. This gave hope to many who had once felt powerless. Marcus's family was proud of how he handled everything. His mother said he had shown strength and kindness at the same time. His father told him that standing for what is right is never easy, but always important. His sister continued to support him, proud of how he spoke out for justice. The neighborhood held events to celebrate progress and to remind everyone that the journey toward fairness is ongoing. Marcus spoke at some of these gatherings, but he always stayed humble. He wanted to remind people that every small step counts and that together, communities can make a difference. The story of Marcus and the broken nose became a lesson for many. It showed that courage in a moment of challenge can lead to hope and change. People saw that standing up with dignity can inspire others and start important conversations. Marcus's punch was not just about self-defense. It was about demanding respect and fairness. Years later, Marcus looked back at that day with a peaceful heart. He knew it had changed his life and his community. More important, it showed that even when things seem unfair, people can find the strength to stand tall and work for a better tomorrow. Marcus's story reminds us all that courage, kindness, and honesty are powerful tools. They can break down walls, heal wounds, and bring people together. And in that, there is always hope. This final part closes the story with hope, progress, and lasting impact. It focuses on community healing, respect, and the quiet strength of one man's courage to keep the audience engaged and inspired. Would you like me to help you with anything else?